Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Is the audio okay? Good evening, everyone. Please, if you can hear me clearly, just type yes. All right, the audio is good now. I think everybody can hear me now. What about the video? Is the video okay? Can you see me now? All right, that's okay. That's good. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of um, EduTop Scholars online discussion. This time we are going to discuss GNS 302, that is Communication in English 3, a course in your HND 1 second semester. Now, I will just give you the breakdown of the course and the aspect you should focus while preparing for your exam. I think the door. All right, so for this exam, we are going to have it in 3 different sections: section 1, section 2, and section 3. And for section 1, you are going to answer 2 questions. For section 2, you are going to answer all questions in that section. And for section 3, you are going to answer only 1 question there too. Now, but for the first section, you will notice for about 3 or 4 weeks of resumption in the second semester, for GNS 302, we have been discussing letter writing, that is correspondence. And I told you, any communication that uses letters and symbols to communicate now is referred to as correspondence. In other words, correspondence just means letter writing, sending information through the means of writing with symbols or letters. So that is what we mean by correspondence. So, and for letter writing, remember I told you you should discard a particular type of letter they have taught us in the past, and that is semi-formal letter. There is no letter that is called semi-formal letter. If a letter is not formal, then that letter is informal. So a letter is either formal or informal. Now, the type of letter we refer to as semi-formal, now if we look at it closely, we see that it has most features of an informal letter. In other words, the language used in such letter is not in any way a formal language. It's not a formal language. It's not restricted by any rule. Now, that means you are relating with the person like somebody you know. Although the major difference between semi-formal and informal letter is that they say it's a letter we write to people we respect. But in such letters, once it is not an official matter you are discussing, then it is informal. It is informal. So we have narrowed the types of letters down into just 2 types. So for now, we have only 2 types of letters, that is formal letter and informal letter, which means if a letter is not formal, then it is informal, nothing like semi-formal. Okay, so but for this exam, because I don't want to waste much time discussing irrelevant matters now, I just want us to go straight to the point for our preparation for the exam. Let's go straight to the point. This is what I mean. For this exam, we are going to focus on only one type of letter, that is the formal letter. You are going to write a formal letter in the exam. And remember, I've told you should prepare to write letters, which means not just one letter. So in this exam, you are going to write one formal letter and one memo. So prepare to write a letter and a memo. And what should you focus on letter writing? We have discussed the several components of a formal letter, and that is how to plan your letter. Your letter should follow those components step by step. Now, if you remember the components, now you can begin to mention them. If you still remember, what are the components of a formal letter? What are the components now, if you remember? I've not seen any answer. What are the various components of a formal letter? Now, for you to write a very good letter, you must follow those components. You must follow those components. I will mention them one after the other, but I want you to remind me which ones have I taught you in class. Don't just type yes. I want you to give me components of formal letters. Okay, some people are already giving me the answer. So let me quickly go over the components of a formal letter. The first component you should consider in a formal letter is the writer's address. The writer's address. Don't say just the address. It is not any other address but the writer's address. That is the first address you're going to write when writing your formal letter, and it is actually written at the topmost right hand corner of your writing material, of your sheet of paper that you're using for writing your letter. So the address of the writer is at the right hand side, topmost right hand side of your letter. So that is the address of the writer. Then the second component is the date. Good. Somebody mentioned it already. The date. Remember, the date is a separate component. Don't write your date with your address. Don't let it be together. Don't let them be together. After writing your letter's address, then you leave a line. You write your date. I want you to listen to me. I am not going to be using board this night. I just want to discuss with you. But all this I'm saying are just some kinds of reminder. So the date will come after the writer's address. And don't forget, I gave you some formats for writing your date. Now, it's either you begin with the day followed by the month. So if you begin with the day, so the day is going to be with an nth. Remember, either you say 7th, 15th, 3rd, 1st, or whatever. So that is if you are writing your day first before the month. So you 7th March, 2026, or 25th August 2026. That is when you are starting with the day. But if you start with the month, you write March 5, 2026, not March 5th, March 5, 2026. So that is another way to write your date. Either you begin with the month followed by the day before the year, or you begin with the day then followed by the month then the year. Don't forget, after writing your month, there will be a comma before you write your year, and that is it. So the next component is the receiver's address. The receiver's address. The receiver's address is to the left hand side. So immediately after your date, don't forget your date will be directly under the writer's address. Then immediately after the writer's address, you write your date. Immediately after your date, you come to the left hand side, leave a line still, then write the receiver's address, that is the recipient's address. That is for the third component. Now, the third component, as in the recipient's address, I want to repeat it again, should come immediately after your date, but to the left-hand side. After the recipient's address, the next component is the attention line. Now, most of you that did not attend my class on letter writing may not understand what I mean by attention line. It is not every letter that has attention line. Somebody mentioned it already. Attention line is sometimes, not all of the time, important. Now, what is attention line? It is indicated by using the abbreviation ATT, then with a colon. ATT with a colon. That means in any letter you see, that's ATT, a colon, then means attention line. What do we use it for? Now, we use it to call the attention of the recipient to the fact that somebody knows about this matter, and this is the person the letter should be referred to. So once they receive a letter in an office and it has the attention line, so the officer whose name is written after the attention abbreviation ATT, now the letter will be referred to him or her. So that means the writer already knows that this person can handle the issue perfectly. So that is why he put the name of the person in the attention line. So attention line comes immediately after the recipient address. And after the attention line, the next component is the salutation. The salutation. The salutation for a formal letter is usually "Dear Sir." That is the conventional salutation for a formal letter. So when we say salutation in a letter, we do not mean you greeting the recipients, saying how is family, how is work, or whatever. No. It means it is simply the opening of your letter. That is salutation. "Dear Sir." And when you are writing your "Dear Sir," now I've always taught my students that it is only when you are writing a memo, now something that is to be distributed to a lot of people, that is when you say "Dear Sir" or "Ma." If you're writing a formal letter, you either write "Dear Sir" or you write "Dear Madam," provided you know the gender of the recipient. So you don't give option, you don't make it optional, like saying "Dear Sir" or "Ma." That is usually used in a memo or a circular or any information you are sending in the written form that has to be distributed to a lot of people. That is when you use "Dear Sir" or "Ma." But if you're writing a letter to a particular office as official letter, maybe letter of complaints, letter of application, whatever, you don't say "Dear Sir" or "Ma." Now, if you write "Dear Sir" and the recipient is now a female, then it is not a problem. That is ignorance on your part. You don't know, so nobody is penalizing you on that. So don't let it be ambiguous saying "Dear Sir" or "Ma" once it is not to be displayed to a lot of people. So that is another thing about the salutation. So your salutation should begin with a capital letter D, "Dear," then the "Sir," capital letter S with a comma after it, "Dear Sir," then with a comma. That is your salutation. Every formal letter should now have the next component, which is the subject of the letter. The subject of the letter is written as the topic or the title of the letter. Now, and there are two formats for writing the subject of the formal letter, which is the heading or the subject, the topic. Now, it is either you write the subject in small letters. And when you write it in small letters, you should be sure that you begin every content word with a capital letter. Now, it's only grammatical words that are written in small letters all through. Now, for example, if you are writing the subject of your letter as letter of invitation, now the L in letter should be in capital letter, then invitation should start with capital letter too, but of should be in small letters all through, because that is a preposition. A preposition is a grammatical word. So if you are writing grammatical words like articles or preposition, they should be in small letters all through. But every other content words, that is, words that have their own contextual meaning, so they are called content words. So those should be written beginning with capital letters in your title or your subject. So don't forget that the heading, the title, the subject, meaning the same thing, must each individual word in the title should start with capital letter. Now, when you are writing with when you're writing everything in small letters, then if you write in small letter, you have to underline your subject, underline it. Now, like I always say, a single line is okay. A single line is okay when you write your subject. But if you write your subject in capital letters all through, make sure you don't underline. You don't underline. Now, after the subject as a component, the next component is the body of your letter. Now, that is where you have to do a lot of work. Now, listen carefully. Listen carefully. For the examiner to mark your letter, the yardstick or the parameter we use is there are four. There are four yardsticks. The first one is the content, which is which we usually use letter C to represent. Content means, are you able to write the letter within the content of, or within the context of what we ask you to write? For example, if we ask you to write a letter to your HOD complaining about your classroom, now not conducive, not somehow conducive for learning. Now, if you want to write such a letter, there are some ideas that you want to tell your HOD. There are some things you want to tell your HOD. Now, the body of your letter will have three parts: the introduction, the major body, that is the main body, then the conclusion. Now, the introduction is especially in a formal letter, the introduction is when you introduce yourself. If there is a need for you to introduce yourself, in that kind of a letter you are writing to your HOD, you introduce yourself. My name is so, a student in the department of so department. Then your level, whatever, your matric number, you can introduce yourself. Then it's in another way, you can also introduce the reason for the letter. You can introduce that reason also. It is part of introduction. You have not started the discussion per se. You are just preparing introduction. So in that way, your letter has a very good start, a very good beginning. And the introduction will give you opportunity to say something about the reason for writing your letter in some ways, or specifically you can let it be introducing yourself to the person you're writing the letter to. Okay, so then the next thing, the main body of the letter, this is how to plan it. Now, have an outline for your letter. Whatever they ask you to write about, you should have the first point you want to discuss, the second point you want to discuss, the third point you want to discuss. Now, each of those points will have a paragraph each. Now, you write a letter of complaint. Don't know. Write a letter to your HOD complaining about your name missing on the score sheet. Now, what you begin with is, in the main body, what you begin is with you telling your HOD that you have done everything necessary. After doing everything necessary, what now happened? You discover your name is missing on the score sheet. Now, what now happened after it? Now, it has given you a lot of problem because you have not been able to see your scores. What will now then happen? You want him to do something about it. See, you already have 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph, you tell him that you have done everything necessary. Number 2, you later discovered your name is missing on the score sheet. Number 3, what has he scored? You have not been able to see your scores. Number 4, what do you want him to do? Tell him what you want him to do about it. Those are 4 paragraphs. Then add that one to the introductory paragraph, making 5 paragraphs. Then the closing, the concluding paragraph, will make it number 6, which means in a letter you already have 6 paragraphs, which means you are very close to having a very good score in the content of your letter, the content. Now, and usually the content carries the highest mark in the yardstick. The content carries the highest mark. Then the next component, the next yardstick we use to evaluate your letter is the organization of your letter. How well have you been able to organize your ideas? Did you start very well? Did you start with the first thing you should start with? Did you arrange them logically? Are your ideas logically arranged? That is what we mark in organization. You should not just put things together in disorganized manner. So you should learn to organize your ideas very well so that the first idea will flow with the next idea and all of them will flow together to the end of the letter. Then you conclude your letter now telling him how you will feel if they attend to your letter as soon as possible. So that is how to write the conclusion of your letter. Then the last component then will be the complementary clause. The complementary clause for a formal letter is conventionally yours faithfully. Yours faithfully. Now, how do you write that? Now, I told you there are 2 formats for writing your letter, but I would advise that you use the first format, which is the indented format, because indented format is usually used when you handwrite your letter. That is, if you do not type your letter is handwritten, then you should use indented format. The block format is most of the time for a typed letter. When you type your letter, use block format. That is, you don't leave indent in your paragraph. You only use lines, that is space after each paragraph, to indicate the end of a paragraph and the beginning of another paragraph. That is block format. Use that one when you type your letter. But for this purpose now, the exam purpose, now you are going to use indented format to write your letter. Indented format means you are going to leave some space between the margin of your sheet of paper and the first letter of every paragraph. So that space is not what we call paragraph. Like I've taught many of you in the class, we call that space indent, because once I show you a passage and I show you the space between the margin and the first letter, you say, that is paragraph. That is not paragraph. That is called an indent. Indent is the space you leave between the margin and the first letter of every paragraph. That is indent, and that's why we call that format indented format, because you have indented your format. You have used indent to indicate your paragraph. So if you use indented format, the complementary clause should come to the left hand side, to the right hand side. For indented format, the complementary clause is at the right hand side of your letter, and right hand side of your letter, that yours faithfully. And the yours faithfully begins with a capital letter Y. Capital letter Y. Then the faithfully begins with small letter F. So capital letter Y for yours, small letter F for faithfully. Then after faithfully, you have a comma. You have a comma. Then after the comma, you are going to sign the letter. Every formal letter is signed. So when a letter is formal and it is not signed, then that letter is not valid. So what you have after yours faithfully is your signature, then followed by your full name. In a formal letter, you don't write only your first name or only your middle name. You write your full name. The 3 names you use to identify yourself, you write everything in full. So yours faithfully, your signature, then your full name. Now, in a formal letter, you are free to add any information that may be necessary. For example, in the case of academic environment, when you write a letter, it is very important after your name, you can write your matric number. And these days, it is also good when you write a formal letter, practically, not for exam purpose now, practically, if you write a formal letter, you can add your contact, your phone number after your name, after your matric number, then you can add your uh, contact. They might need to call you for one thing or the other. So that is why it is important you write your contact. So in the case of you writing a letter to a bank, after signature followed by your name, the next thing you write is your account number, because those are the things they can use to identify you or solve your problem when you have problem. Matric number in the case of school, account number in the case of bank, your file number in the case of your organization, and some other things like that. So they are always necessary when you have a formal letter. Then the last component is the end of letter notations. Now, there are a lot of notations we use at the end of a letter. Many of you have not seen that before, but the most common one is the CC notation, carbon copy notation. You see a letter, after the letter, at the base of the letter, you see capital letter C and one small letter C with a colon. Then they begin to list some people, or they write a particular name there. That is carbon copy. What does it mean? It means a copy of that letter is sent to that person you wrote the name. So that is carbon copy. But we also have another. I want to read this person. Now, don't we need greeting in this type of letter? No, you don't need greeting in a formal letter. It is official reason you are writing. So the person will not count it as a crime when you don't greet. There is no need for you to greet. The only greeting you have there is the salutation, dear sir. You have greeted the person. So then you go straight to the point. Introduce the letter, the purpose you are writing a letter, you introduce yourself to. Then you go straight to the point, discussing the main idea you want to discuss in the letter. No greeting. Then another person asks, the components, the writer, address, the date, okay, thank you. I know you are correct. Those are the components of a formal letter. So the next end of letter notation is the BC notation. I have told you BC notation is called blind copy notation. Blind copy means you are sending a copy to somebody without the knowledge of the original recipient. The original recipient does not know that you send a copy to somebody. So on the copy you are sending to that person, you are going to put BC. Once the person receives it and sees BC as a notation in the letter, it means you sent that letter to him confidentially. Where the other person, the original recipient, does not know that you sent a copy to somebody. So that is the essence of a blind copy. That is, the recipient is blind to that copy you sent out. He doesn't know about it. So that is carbon copy. Then another notation that's very important is enclosure notation. I want you to put that in your mind always, that when you're writing a formal letter, especially those ones that discuss sensitive matters, always put enclosure notation there. If you have attached any documents to that letter you have written, in the end of letter notation place, make sure you put enclosure. You write out all the documents you have attached to the letter. Now that will save you some problems, because in your letter, some documents may be detached, either deliberately or accidentally. Now, if your letter reaches the last destination, now the original recipient will go through your letter, check every attachment one after the other. Now, if you did not write it as enclosure notation, the recipient may not know that a particular document is missing. So, but if you put it there, if you put 5 documents and you listed all the 5 documents, if the recipient later found out that there are only 3 documents there, so Now, it could be traced back maybe to the office of the receptionist or the secretary or whosoever is in charge. So it is, and especially when you write your application letter, you want to add your resume, you want to add your credentials, make sure you write in the enclosure notation every document you have attached, so which is very important. But for the examination purpose now, if they ask you to write a letter to somebody, make sure if that letter is solving a particular problem, make sure you attach any necessary documents to it. Although you are writing letter for the purpose of exam, but it will let us know that you understand letter writing, and that will fetch you some marks too. You understand letter writing. So those are the components of a formal letter. I don't want us to waste time. Let's see samples of how we ask you question. I have sent you a past question, and I'm going to take question sample now. Please, can you display the past question on the screen? Let's see. All right, okay. If you check the first question there, now, like I told you, we are going to give you 4 different questions on letter writing, 4 different questions. In those 4 questions, you are going to write, you are going to answer 2 from the 4 questions, which means if you notice, you see either or. Now, the first 2 sets of questions, listen carefully. Now, this is where some students miss it. Listen carefully. Check the question I sent to you. This question is on the screen now. Now, the first set of questions, there are 2. Now, 1A1 or 1A2. So we have 1A and 1B. 1A has 2 questions. 1B has 2 questions. From 1A, you are going to answer 1. From 1B, you are going to answer 1. So from 1A1 or 1A2, you are going to choose 1. Don't say you are going to, because we asked you to answer 2, you are going to answer the first 2. No, you will be wrong. We will not mark the second one. So answer 1 from the 1A, then answer another one from 1B, which means you are going to write a letter. You will notice that the second one has memo in it. So then the first one is letter writing, the other one is memo writing. So choose anyone you want to write. Look at the first question. In your capacity as registrar of a named polytechnic in the state, write a memorandum to all heads of departments in your institution, telling them the need to shift the date of GNS 302 examination to the end of the examination. Give the reasons for the shift in the date and request that the information should be passed to all students in each department. Now, let me use that question to explain some things to you. Any question we give you, we have legs. L-E-G-S. We have legs. How many legs does the question have? Check very well. In the case of this question now, write a letter in your capacity as the registrar. Now, what are you writing the letter about? Telling them the need to shift the date of the GNS. That is one leg. Then the second leg, give the reasons for the shift. That is the second leg. That means your content should have all those legs. Give the reasons. Now, if you have 2 reasons, the 2 reasons are going to be in 2 paragraphs. If you have 3 reasons, the 3 reasons are going to be in 3 paragraphs. And that is why some people get it wrong, because they think it's a letter, they don't need to write a lot of things. No, a letter is not supposed to have only 1 paragraph or only 2 paragraphs. It depends on the number of things they ask you to discuss. So look at another leg. The next leg is give the reasons for the shift in the date. Then the last leg, and request that the information should be passed to all students. That's going to be in another paragraph. So the number of legs will determine the number of paragraphs you are going to have. And in any leg, if the leg has some toes to it, so for example, the leg which says reasons, give reasons, they did not say give reason, they say give reasons. So it means it is not only one reason. And one reason will be in a paragraph. That means if you have two reasons, you are going to have two paragraphs, three reasons, three paragraphs. So take note of any number of legs your question have, so that you will not miss out any part of it. So that will help you to develop a very good letter. You can have as many paragraphs as possible, provided you are not including extraneous ideas or extraneous item. Those things we did not ask you to do, don't include them. But if it is what we ask you to do, now the number of things you have to discuss with the number, we determine the number of paragraphs that you will have. So that is it. And let's see another question. Let's see question number 1B. Is there any question yet? I'm not hearing you. That's not true. Check your device. That may be your phone malfunctioning. So question number 1B, 1B1. You lost your purse containing some money, national identity card, and ATM card of your bank. Full stop. What do you have to do? Write a letter to the divisional police officer in your area to inform the authority and request for a letter to the issuing authorities for replacement. Now, there are two things they ask you to do there. Write a letter to the divisional police officer in your area to inform him what happened. That is one leg. The other leg is, and you request for a letter to the issuing authorities for replacement. So that is the second leg. This one has only two legs. So take note of the number of legs your letter have, so that you will not lose mark. Now, that is for letter writing. I don't want us to waste time there. So don't run away from letter writing. Letter writing is a very easy task for a student in an examination. Right? Just check what is going to be the content of your letter. What exactly did the letter ask you to do? So that is what you should write about. So let's go to the next section of the exam. First section, you are going to write two letters, one formal letter and one memo. Now, okay, let me see this. Question number 1B2. Write a letter to the newly elected dean of the faculty and put students' expectation before him in your capacity as the president of the faculty. Okay. So that one too has two legs. So what I'm saying is, you should make sure you take note of the number of legs a question will have. Okay, let's go to section 2. Section 2 is comprehension passage. We are going to give you a comprehension passage. And this time around, listen carefully. The comprehension passage is not going to be an ordinary comprehension passage like it used to be when you were writing your WAEC or your NECO. This time around, we taught you logic in GNS 301. So we are going to test your understanding of logic in GNS 302. That is why we are giving you that comprehension passage. The comprehension passage is going to be logical in nature and structure. So the structure is going to be either an expository writing or an argumentative writing, because in expository writing, you are going to give your ideas and you are going to use facts to support it. And likewise, in argumentative writing too, you are going to argue a point, belong to a side of the points of the argument. Then you are going to put up your opinions while you are standing at that point or position, and then you are going to use facts to substantiate your opinions. So that is example of such passage we are going to give you. So in that passage, when you are reading it, you should be logical enough to see wherever the writer uses his own opinion or put up his own opinion, you are going to examine and identify where the writer uses facts to support his claims on a particular thing. So, which means in that passage, we are going to test you on fact, opinion, fallacy, assumption, deduction, that is deductive reasoning, or inductive reasoning. So those aspects of logic are what we are going to test you on. You see that most of the questions will have logic in them, either asking you for the opinion of the writer, or asking you for the fact that the writer used to support his opinion, or asking you for what kind of fallacy is committed in this statement. And that is how we ask you questions on comprehension passage. I will not read the comprehension passage, but I will just go to the questions so that you know how we ask you questions on comprehension passage. Your comprehension passage is going to give you 15 marks. Take note of that, 15 marks. Don't forget your letters. Each of the letters will give you 15 marks. The letter will give you 15 marks. Your memo will give you 15 marks. That is 30 marks. You are left with another 30 marks. So 15 marks for the comprehension passage. Now look at question number 1. Question number 1. What are the main arguments in favor of polygamy? What are the main arguments in favor of polygamy? Now, I don't know the number of arguments that are there, but the word is written as arguments, which means it is not only one argument. So in such question, you are going to check how many arguments are there, which means you are not going to write only one argument. And make sure whatever you are bringing out is an argument. You should know argument, what argument means. So your proposition about something, your own opinion about something, as against other people's belief about that thing, that's an argument. But when you have an argument, there will be premise to an argument, and there will be conclusion. Premise is those ideas you put up to support a claim. So now, that is for number 1. What are the main arguments in favor of polygamy? I will not use this passage to answer any question here, because it is not this passage. Every session, every semester will give you new passages. It will never be a passage you have seen before. So we don't have to waste our time reading this passage. But I have always said it in class that any passage you see is just like a new market. There are 2 ways to answer questions on comprehension passage. It's either if you see it as a market and somebody wants you to buy something from that market. Now, the first thing you do, that is the first method. Some of you will do that. You will leave what they ask you to buy. You won't care about it. You don't want to hear it. Then you go to that market to see. You go through the market from gate to the last point of the market. Then you now come back to the person and say, okay, what do you want me to buy? That is what you do when you read the passage first. Anytime you are reading comprehension passage, if you read the passage first, what you are doing is that they want you to go and buy something from market, and you say, don't worry, don't tell me what I want to buy. Let me go to the market first. And you now come back and you ask them. So when you are now asking them, that is when you are going to read the questions. So when you are reading questions, you are asking them, okay, what do you want me to buy? After you had gone to the market and come back. So that method usually wastes time. But the second method is they want you to buy something from the market. Ask them, what do you want me to buy from the market? That means you want to know the questions first. Know the questions they want to ask you first. Then you can now go back to the passage. So it will save you time. The 2 methods are good. Like I always tell my students, they are good. It depends on how calm you are. The first method is good, but it will waste your time. Going to the market first, then you now come back to ask them, what do you want me to buy? The smartest one is read the questions, then go to the passage. Once you begin reading the passage, you will begin to see answers to those questions. Well, you will see what you have seen in the question. You will see what has been mentioned in the question before. You will see it there. Now, look at the questions now. Question number 2. Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines, yet God endowed him with great wisdom. Therefore, God approves of polygamy. Determined that quote is from that passage. Oh. Now, the question is, determine the validity or otherwise of the inference here. Now, if they ask you to determine validity or invalidity or otherwise, it means we're asking you, is that statement valid or invalid? For somebody to say, because Solomon had 700 wives and God still loved him, so that therefore God approves polygamy. Is that reasoning? Is it a valid reasoning or invalid reasoning? Is it valid argument or invalid argument? Is it valid conclusion or invalid conclusion? So that is what that question is saying. And if you understand what we taught you about logic last semester, you see that that is invalid. You can this kind of reasoning is inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning most of the time are not valid. They are not valid because you are using specific. You are starting from specific thing, then you now generalize. Now, because Julius is a police student and is brilliant, Bola is also a police student and is brilliant, then all police students are brilliant. That is inductive reasoning. It is invalid. You cannot use that alone to determine the status of police students. So likewise in this passage now, 700 wives, 300 concubines, and God still endowed him with wisdom. That means God also loves polygamy. No, that is invalid. That is invalid. Then number 3, on what ground is the justification of polygamy rested in paragraph 2 of the passage? In what ground? On what ground is the justification of polygamy rested in paragraph 2 of the passage? So when they say justification, that means the premises. On what premises? What justification do you have for your claim? Madam Julie killed her husband. That is the conclusion. What are the grounds? What are the claims? What are the premises for that claim? You said last night I heard her husband crying, you want to kill me, you want to kill me. And this morning the husband is dead. So that means Madam Julie killed her husband. Okay, so that the husband was crying in the middle of the night is the only ground that this person is putting up now as justification for saying that. So now in that passage they're asking for justification. Anything that somebody puts forward to support a claim is what we call justification. All right, then number 4, what is your observation concerning the premise upon which justification of polygamy is inferred? So premise, I have told you, they are those statements you make before you make the last conclusion. What's your what opinion? What are those things you are raising to support a particular claim? Ronaldo is the best player in the world. That is the conclusion. Ronaldo has won this, Ronaldo has won that, Ronaldo has done this, Ronaldo has done that. Now, you mentioned 4 things. And for those things you mentioned, it means Ronaldo is the best player in the whole world. Now, not considering some other people that also won such things. Now, that is where you are going to check the validity or invalidity of that argument. Okay, is that the only reason why you are saying this person is the best player? Okay, so on what ground is the justification? So when they say on what ground, what are those things you put forward before you now say this is my conclusion? Now, in this case now, I don't want us to waste time. Go back to read things about your logic. The topic logic. Now, what are those things you have to read there? Read about opinions. We are going to ask you. Now, a statement in a passage that reflects the mind of the writer is an opinion. A statement in the passage that brought up a universal truth that everybody believes. Such statement is a fact. Facts are objective truth that are universally believed. So universal, truth, objective truth. It must be universal. It must be objective. That is what we mean by fact. So you should be able to differentiate between facts and opinion. Then fallacy. When we say fallacy means errors that are committed in argument. Why do you want us to believe you? Or why do you want us to do what you ask us to do? So whatever thing you are mentioning for people to consider what you are saying. Now, if it contradicts some aspect of the argument, then it will be a fallacy. Let me give you an example. If you are saying they should not send somebody to jail, although it is true that he killed his wife, but you are saying, please don't send him to jail. Why? He is the only son of his mother. If you send him to jail, his mother will die. That is called appeal. The type of fallacy there is appeal to emotion. You're only appealing to emotion. You want to raise emotion in people so that they will pity him. We call it appeal to emotion, or sometimes appeal to pity. Now, there are several types of fallacy. Now, the type will determine, the way they put it will determine the type of fallacy it is. Now, we have appeal to authority. If you say some people are driving against traffic, that is, they are driving on one way, and you say, no, you can't stop them, they are government official, but what they are doing is wrong. You say, you can't stop them. Why can't we stop them? They are government officials. So they are doing what is wrong, and because they are now government officials, we should leave them. That is appeal to authority or appeal to power. So that somebody is wrong, and you are saying what he did should be overlooked because he's the son of the king. And that is appeal to power or appeal to authority. Or you say, no, we cannot allow her to come to we cannot allow her to enter that place. But the place, that house is built by her husband. Yes, but why can't this person enter the house? Now, because it is our tradition that a newly married woman should not enter the new house built by the husband. Now, because it is a tradition now, somebody who is excited should not enter her husband's house. That is appeal to tradition. So, or appeal to culture. Now, when something is wrong and you are using something that does not have a valid base to support it, that is fallacy. So, and there are always errors that are committed when you are making arguments. When you argue something, the basis for your argument should not contain any error that could be either fallacy of, appeal to pity, appeal to emotion, appeal to authority, appeal to tradition, and so many other types of fallacies. So you should know some of those types. Now, in our previous videos, the EduTop Scholars videos, we discuss fallacies as part of the topics under logic. You can go back there and look at and watch types of fallacies. That will also help you in this exam. Now, for the last part of the question in the comprehension passage, we are going to ask you to use some other words to represent a group of words. Most of the time, we give you 5 words from the passage, and those words, they are used in the passage, but we ask you to find another word to replace them as used in the passage. Now, most of the time, you might see a word that you don't even know the meaning among those group of words. you should not run away from it. Now, there's something we call context clue. Context clue will help you to determine the meaning of that word, even if you have not heard the word before. Now, I used example of a particular, okay, let's say he did not just committed, I mean, he did not just commit the offense. His brother galvanized him into doing it. Now, the word galvanized is underlined, and they ask you to find another word to replace galvanized. But you go back to that passage, look at how they use galvanized. The way it is used is, he did not just commit the offense, but his brother galvanized him into doing it. Okay, that is explanatory enough to give you the clue about the meaning of galvanized. So you can now think of another word. Maybe his brother lured him, his brother propelled him, his brother motivated him, his brother pushed him, and so on. So it means the context where that word is used, we suggest to you what's meaning. So use that whenever you see, for example, the second question. Okay, I didn't send that to you. Most of the time, we this question does not have it, but most of the time we give you some words, we ask you to replace them with another word. So don't run away from any big word. Go back to the passage, see how it is used, then you can determine the meaning. Thank you. Now before I go to the last section, let me see if there is any question here. Please, is this ND or HND or both? Okay. Sorry, if you are taking JNS 202 in ND class, this is also useful for you. JNS 202. JNS 202, you are going to write letter 2. You are going to write to answer question on reports 2. So it will be useful for you. But this is basically for those that are having exam tomorrow, JNS 302. Communication in English 3. So it is not for ND. But if you are in ND and you are taking JNS 202, this will also help you. Okay, any other question? Now, if you're writing to your HOD, practically, if not for exam reason, when you write a letter to your HOD complaining about something or you're requesting something, now at the end of the letter where you have your complimentary close, yours faithfully, your name, then you should write your matric number. Write your matric number. I did not say you should write your matric number in the address. So you can either have your matric number in the introductory paragraph when you are introducing yourself. You can write matric number. Then when you are closing the letter, complimentary close, after yours faithfully, you can have your signature, then your name. Then after your name, you can write your matric number. Any other question there? Okay. Now, memo has only 4 or 5 components. Don't forget your memo, after the heading of the memo, which is the name of the organization. In the case of the Polytechnic, you write the name of the Polytechnic, then the heading, memorandum or internal memo. So after the internal memo, you have 4 components. The from component, that is the place where the memo is originated from. Then after the from, you have a column. You write from the HOD or from the dean or from the deputy registrar or whatever. Then you on the other side, you have the to component. The to component is indicating where the memo is going to, who is going to receive the memo. Now, all deans, all HODs or whatever. Now, the other components below the flow component is the ref component, that is the reference component. Reference component is the set of numbers that are used to tag your memo. Now, for tagging your memo means to make it easier for the secretary to file your memo or for the organization to give your memo a description. Now, that is the essence of reference number, or when there is going to be any reference to that memo in the future, it is that number that will be quoted. The number is usually for that memo alone, and no other memo will have that number. That's reference number. Then the last component is the date component. A memo must have the date that it was written. So those are the 4 major components. But the last component, which is the 5th one, is also very important. A memo should have a subject. The subject of that memo must summarize what the memo is all about. What the memo is all about. For example, the postponement of the second semester examination could be the subject of a memo. So submission of student ID card at the CIDM is a very good title or subject of a memo. So it should summarize what the memo is all about. Now, the last section of the exam. Now, everybody should listen to me carefully on this one. If there's anything you have to read this night, if there's anything you have to read, forget about letter writing. I've taught you several things you need to know on letter writing. Forget about comprehension passage. I've taught you several things you need to know about comprehension passage. But the last section is where I'm going to ask you to go and read some aspects of that topic, and that is project report writing. Report writing. In this exam, you are going to answer questions on report writing. You are not going to write a report anyway. You won't write a report, but you'll be asked to describe some things in report writing, which means you have to go and read some things. Listen carefully. Make sure you understand the meaning of project report or the meaning of report. What is a report? You should be able to define report. Then number 2, what are the various types of reports? Number 3, you should also try and read methods of data collection in writing a report. Methods of data collection in writing a report. I have taught you some things on that. There are 2 major sources of data collection. It's either you use primary source of data collection or you use secondary source of data collection. For primary source of data collection, it means you are asking questions from people through either interview or through questionnaire. So interview, questionnaire, they are good example of primary source of information. Participant observation too. You can also join any particular group you are doing research about. You can join them to study those aspects of their interaction you want to know about. That is also a primary source of data collection. So anything you hear directly from the subject, that is the target of your research, anything you hear from that source is primary source of information. So and how do you get that? What method do you use? You can use questionnaire method. You can use interview. Then you can go and participate. You got participant observation. You can go and observe it yourself. So that is primary source. Then the secondary source of information is when you go and read books written by people that have done that research before, something similar to that research before. So go and read books about them, about their work. For example, anything you read in a journal to get information about your topic, anything you read from newspaper, anything you read from textbooks, anything you read from encyclopedia, they are all examples of secondary source of information. That is how to collect data when you are writing a report. Don't forget, report is a document that contains the result of your findings, the step-by-step procedure and result of a particular finding towards solving a particular problem. That is what a report is. Whenever you write a report, okay, you want to give people information about a particular task they are giving you. So, and we have several types of report. We can have a report that is routine report. Routine report is any report that is given periodically, maybe fortnightly, or maybe weekly, or monthly, or bi-monthly, or yearly. You can see some organizations having their annual financial report. That's the kind of report. That one is routine report. It is always happening every year. No, but we have commissioned report too. Commission report is any reports that a particular office commission you to go and find um, uh, information about a particular thing, and we want you to give them report on that information. That is commissioned. Then, for example, it is compulsory for you to write a project in your final year. Now, that one is commissioned. You are writing it as part of the requirement for you to graduate. You are commissioned. So, and once they approve your topic, it means they are sending you out to go and find out about something um, in the society. So you are there. You will now come back with your findings. You discuss how you collected your data. You discuss how you tested the data. You discuss what you have been able to discover from the data. Then you give recommendation on your finding so that it will solve problem. Okay, so those are the things I want you to go and read. Meaning of report, um, types of report, then method of collecting data, types of data um, collection, that the primary source of data collection, secondary source of data collection, then method of collecting that data, the data, for example, interview, um, uh, um, questionnaire, and some other ones like that. Okay, so let me read some questions here to determine some aspects I want you to go and read. Establish the difference between project report and progress report. Now, when we say project report, there is a particular problem facing an organization, and they want to solve this problem. Problem solving is a big project in any organization. Now, they have discovered the problem and they want you to find why this problem is happening and what solution. So when they send you, and for most report writing you are writing in your final year, project you are writing in your final year, you are writing on those topics to solve problems. That is the essence of any report you are writing. Then any projects you carry out, any report, research work you carry out, the major reason is to solve problem. So that is project report. But for progress report, there is a particular project in an organization that you are in charge of. They can request for progress report on that project. That is, you give them from the beginning to the particular points at which the project is standing. They want to know how far you have gone about it. Maybe, okay, the major projects now. When we say project, it is not maybe they are building a big and gigantic house, or they are constructing a road or whatever. That is not, those are not the only things we call project. Now, a project could mean something that is abstract. For example, your company has a need to recruit a lot of workers, and they have put you in charge of that as the human resources manager of the organization, that you are in charge of the recruitment. Now, the recruitment process is not what is done in a day. Now, at a particular point, the organization might ask you to come and give the progress report on the recruitment process. So progress report on that will give the organization how far you have gone about it, how many people have applied, how many of them have you called for interview, how many of them do you think are employable, and what point is the process now. So that is progress report. Now, it is not only when you are building or you're constructing something that they say a progress report on them. So it could be on a particular investigation. A commissioner of police can ask one officer to provide a progress report on a particular investigation they are carrying out on some set of criminals. So they can ask them to provide progress report. How have you been able to go about the investigation. What have you been able to achieve? That is progress report. So progress report is step by step of a particular procedure in a research and points at which it has reached. That is progress report. Okay, the second question, identify and explain any 6 attributes of a report. Okay, that is also very important. Attribute of a report is the same thing as qualities of a good report, characteristics of a good report. The same thing. Listen, attributes, characteristics, features of a good report, they mean the same thing. Now, let me tell you few of them. Now, if you cannot remember any one, remember these first 3. Just say ABC of a report. ABC of a report. Now, A stands for accuracy. Any report, the information you give in a report must be accurate. That is A. Then B, a report must be very brief as possible. That is brevity. B, brevity. It must be brief. You don't have to use all the words in the word to explain something in your report. It must be brief so that it will not be too tiring when somebody is reading it. It must be brief. But don't forget, it must also be accurate. So first one, accuracy. Then number 2, brevity. Then number 3, which is C. Remember I said ABC. C, completeness. Completeness. The information in your report must be complete. Not that you just give them 7 out of 10 information and you say 7 not to. Don't say no, 7 is enough. No, give them complete information. The information in any report must be complete. That is number 3. Don't forget ABC. Number 1, A, accuracy. B, brevity. Must be brief. Don't be too elaborate. Don't forget the principle of economy. And if you cannot remember brevity, remember economy. Don't use too much word to explain a concept. It is the same thing. Then number 4, objectivity. Any report you are giving, any report you are writing must be objective. What do we mean by that? It must not be that your idea is overriding any other person's idea. You must be objective in your presentation, not that you impose what you have found out on people, that okay, that is the final, you can never see any other thing other than what I have brought. There are several things some other people can also discover. You are not the only one that will discover that. And remember, there is nothing new under the heaven. There is nothing new. So whatever you are writing is not a new thing. Any problem that is happening and they are asking you to find solution to, that will not be the first time that problem is happening. So you should know that some people might have written something about that thing before, and after you, some people are still going to write. So your own idea can never be the final idea. That is the objectivity. Then another thing is that your report must be factual. When we say something is factual, it means that thing is verifiable. Whatever you say, when they go out to find out, it must be exactly what you say, what you said it is. So that is to say that a report must be factual. It must be factual. So read more on characteristics of reports. Now, in this case, now we ask you to mention 6. Make sure you don't mention less than 6 features or characteristics of a good report. Now, question number 3. Now, this is very important. Most semesters will always ask question on write short notes. There are some key words in report writing that we bring out and we ask you to write short notes on them. Some of them are what we have here and some others. Let me check some other questions so that I can give you some ideas of some other words. So you can write the words as I'm dictating them. So, for example, number 1 here, methodology. What is methodology? That is the method you have used in the procedure for gathering your information and discussing your data or whatever. So your methodology. The abstract. Abstract is just like a summary of the old work, the report, and it comes first in any research work. You write abstract. Your abstract, before somebody reads your project or your report, the abstract should be able to explain everything that is in the report. So abstract is just like a synopsis or a summary of the research work or the report. The bibliography, APA and MLA, appendix, then here too, research report, feasibility report. Those are the types of reports: technical report, progress report, schematic report, formal report, informal report, periodic report. Those are the various types of reports that we have. Now, we may ask you to discuss some of those things too. Then, in this session, they ask you to discuss, write short notes on the following. Look at it again. Abstract. So I have mentioned some items that you can go and study now. Look at it. From the first one, methodology, abstract, bibliography, APA and MLA. I'm coming back to explain some things on APA and MLA. Then appendix, abstract again here in this session. Questionnaire, they may ask you to write short notes on questionnaire. Interview, they may ask you to write short note on interview. You should know what interview is in one of the method of collecting data. Then methodology, glossary, appendix, and some other things like that. So we may ask you to write short notes on some ideas or facts or items. Okay, so number 3C, discuss the components of the first 3 chapters while writing a project at the end of an academic program. Now, the first 3 chapters of any academic project or research work are: number 1, chapter 1, which is introduction; chapter 2, which is literature review; chapter 3, which is discussing your method. When they ask you to discuss chapters, any complete project work will have at least 5 chapters. So 5 chapters, chapter 1 being the introduction, and in the introduction you outline how you are going to organize that report writing. What are those things you are going to dive into, and some other things like that. Then it's still under that, the chapter 1, which is the introduction, the background of the study, how you venture into that topic or research work, the background to it. Then statement of the problem. What are the problems you want to solve? Those are the statement of the problem. Then number 3, the purpose and objective of that research. Why do you want to go into that stress? Why do you want to put yourself in this stress? That is, why do you want to do this research work? The purpose. What is your intention? What problem do you want to solve? Then in that way, you have to provide research questions and hypotheses. Hypotheses are what you think will be the outcome of something when you are doing it. Okay, if we do this, this will be the outcome. So you form a hypothesis. Then significance of the study. All those are in chapter 1. Then chapter 2 is literature review. In literature review, you are going to peruse the work of some other people that have done something similar to your work. In that way, you are going to develop a theoretical framework. That is, you are going to base your work on a particular theory, which means some people already form a theory that will help you do that research work very well. Quote any of the theory, bring them up, and use the theory to analyze your data. And the last one now, chapter 3, that is where you're going to discuss the methodology you have used in putting up all the information you have gathered in the research work. So I just want to give you these clues now. Please, now, even if you are not asked to define report, there are some of the questions that will require you defining report first before you begin to answer the question. Now, in some marking guide, we will say 2 marks or 3 marks for any good definition of report. So sometimes we may not ask you to define report, but what we ask you to discuss may require you to define report. So just give a brief definition of report. Then, number 2, you should try and know, like I said, method of data collection. Then you should also try and know qualities of a very good report. Qualities of a good report. Then you should try and understand some key words in report writing, like I've said: abstract, methodology, bibliography, table of contents, literature review. What do those things mean? What do they mean? Literature review and some other ones like that. Then you can understand basic steps in writing a report. What should come first? What should come next? What, for example, in your report writing, the first thing we usually see, especially the final year project you write, we see your abstracts, then we see your chapter 1, we should see your chapter 2. You should know what is in chapter 1, which is introduction and research purpose, research questions, and some other things like that. That is your introduction, your chapter 1. The chapter 2 is literature review, where you review some works that have been done or carried out very close to that topic you are writing on. Then chapter 3, which is discussing the methodology you use, up to the last chapter, up to the last item you are going to discuss in your, which is recommendation and summary, and so on. So you should know those things that comes first, those things that comes next, and those things that come last in the procedure for writing your report. So that is the last aspect. That's the last, and that's one to the question you are going to answer. You are going to answer only one question. We are going to give you 3 questions, 3 different questions. Just answer one. There's no way you'll not be able to answer one question out of 3 questions. So, and that one question you're answering is going to give you 15 marks. So I want to give room for questions just in 5 minutes. Is abstract and conclusion the same thing? No. Abstract is different from conclusion. Conclusion is just like the submission, your submission to that research work. Sometimes it cannot cover every aspect of the report like abstract would do, but just like you are concluding, that when we're discussing letter writing, when you conclude your letter, does it mean that you are going to summarize what you have discussed in the letter? No. But in the abstract we talk about chapter 1 till the last chapter, just summary of the whole chapters of your project work. That is what you have in abstract. You should be able to tell us reason for you carrying out that research, how you form your hypothesis, then the method you use, the theory you use, and what you arrived at, and the conclusion. That is abstract. So it is different from conclusion. Abstract comes first, then conclusion comes last. Abstract is the first thing. Abstract will even come before chapter 1. So, but your conclusion, remember, it will come at the end of everything in the project or in the report. Someone should please list all the types of reports here, please. Now, I've listed some types of report to you the other time. I said we have formal report, we have informal report, we have technical report, we have special report, we have commissioned report, we have laboratory report, we have routine report. Routine report, I give you example, like any report they give, maybe quarterly, monthly, yearly, that is routine report. Then progress report, that is any report we give about a particular ongoing project or findings. Then we have I have mentioned formal report. We also have informal report. Informal report, now most of the time you can just, for your own purpose, you can scribble some things down about a particular project you are carrying out, and if nobody asks you to write it, you are not submitting it for anybody. That's why it is not formal. But if it is formal, it's going to follow every procedure chapter by chapter. That is formal report. So I've mentioned about 7 now. I said formal report, informal report, technical report, non-technical report, special report, laboratory report, we have routine report, we have progress report, we have commissioned report, and so on. So that answers that question. Enclosure notation, that is end of letter notation. At the end of the complementary clause, when you have closed the letter, then you can put notation. Wherever you can put CC notation, that is carbon copy notation, it is the same place you are going to put enclosure notation. And remember, a letter can have more than one notation. You can have CC notation in a letter, then that same letter will have enclosure notation. That same letter may have postscript notation. I've discussed several end of letter notations with you. Number 1, CC notation. Number 2, BC notation. Carbon copy notation is CC. Blind copy notation is BC. The enclosure notation is ENC. Postscript notation is PS, and so on. Any other question? Is abstract the same thing as proposal? No. Proposal is different from abstract. You list them according to the way you attach them. If the first thing you have is your birth certificate, you write that one as number 1, then followed by your resume, you write that one as number 2. The way you have submitted them is the way you should list them in enclosure notation. Yes, the steps you are going to go through writing your report is the same thing as writing your outline. What should you do first? What should come next? What should come next until you get to the last thing? That's what we call outline. So outline is step by step of the procedure you are going to go through writing your report. That's what we mean by outline. Your name should take the format of how you write your name. Make sure every letter begins, every name begins with a capital letter. Your surname begins with capital letter. Your other names too begin with capital letter. But in some formats, you can write your surname in capital letter and other ones in small letter with only the first letters in capital letters. That is it. Okay, now for APA and MLA, they are the two different formats we use for citing books in any report. Now, let me tell you about this. Whenever you write a report, now, for your secondary data collection, you must have read some books, especially in your literature review. So any book you read, you must quote the author. So, and when you quote the author, you have to cite it in the reference part of your report. So the reference part comes last, where you are going to write title of a book, the author of the book, the year of publication, the name of the publisher, and so on. Now, the way you arrange those things, I mean, the author's name, the name of the book, the year of publication, and the place of publication, then the name of the publisher. The way you arrange it is what we mean by APA and MLA. APA is a body. They suggest how to arrange those things. Then MLA also suggests how you are going to arrange those things. So different organizations have their different ways of citing those books. Some will say, okay, when you write the name of the author, it should be the initial first, followed by the main name. That is Olagoke, S.A. Some will say it should be S.A. Olagoke. Which one does APA suggest? Which one does MLA suggest? So arranging them, the conventional way of writing the citation is the name of the author first, followed by the year of publication. APA will say you put the year of publication in bracket. Later in the review, they might say, okay, remove bracket, the year of publication must not be in bracket. We have APA 1, APA 2, APA 3. There is update to APA citation. Now, almost every year or some specific time, they update it. Now, but there are always little differences. Now, but the way APA will cite a book or a journal or a newspaper is different from the way MLA will cite it. That is what we ask you to study. Look at, okay, how APA will cite textbook, journal article, newspaper or magazine. Now, how would they cite it? Then how would MLA cite it? APA is American Psychology Association. That is meaning of APA. So, and the way APA write their citation is different from the way MLA will write their citation. Any other question there?
So the last question that says discuss the first three chapters. Are we going to define it, or are we going to define at least the component?
When we ask you to discuss the component of the first 3 chapters, now what we ask you to do is to tell us what can we see in chapter 1, what can we see in chapter 2, what do we expect to see in chapter 3. That is what we mean, not for you to define. But components means what are inside something, what are the content of something. That is what we mean by component. So in chapter 1, what is the content of chapter 1? That is, what can we see in chapter 1? Then in chapter 2, what do we expect to see in chapter 2? That is what we mean by components. Any other question?
Maybe the last one, because this question has sent the message over and over again. I think it missed when you explain memo. Okay, how to write a memo.
Okay.
So you have to ask again and again. Steps in writing a memo. Maybe just a quick recap.
Okay. Now, for writing a memo, like I said, it is very likely you write a memo in the exam. Component of a memo is different from component of a letter. Now, sometimes students make mistake that because it's a memo, the language will be short. No, it depends on how many legs the memo we ask you to write has. Although memo usually discuss only one subject, memo does not discuss 2 subjects, and that's why we say, okay, the subject should summarize whatever is in the memo. If there are 2 things to discuss, those 2 things will be in separate memo. Not you. It is wrong to put more than one subject in a memo. If it is postponement of examination, it is only that subject we are going to discuss. Not postponement of examination and ID card collection. It is not proper for a memo to have such content. Memo should discuss only one subject. So the subject you are discussing may require you having different ideas discussed in different paragraphs. So in the memo, they ask you to write where you are. Let me see. Okay, I saw a memo the other time. Okay, look at the question 1C. As the head of personnel department in your establishment, write a memo to the members of your organization to inform them of the new welfare package organized for them and the duties expected of them. So can you see two things, but only one subject? The subject is that there is a new package, welfare package. That is it. And the other thing is still about that welfare package. What duties are expected of each of them to commemorate this package, new package. So it is just one subject, but different ideas under that subject. Now, the number of ideas you are going to discuss in a memo, we determine the number of paragraphs you will have. It is not mandatory that a memo must have one paragraph, just one paragraph. No, it could have as many paragraphs as possible, because the information you are giving in a memo must be complete too. It must be complete. That principle of completeness is still applicable to a memo. So, but what is important is this: the components. The from component, you indicate where the memo is coming from, which office is it coming from, to which office is the memo going, office of the maybe HOD or deans, or to all students. Now it must have to component, and don't forget, when flow component is on the left hand side, the to component must be on the right hand side. But in some organizations, they have all the components in one side. Now one after the other, flow, then under flow you see to, then under to you see reference number, then under reference number you see the date. But the four components must be together. The from component, that is where the letter is coming, the memo is coming from. Then on the other side, to component. I have asked you to bring samples of memo to class, and I've taught you how to discover if a memo has a fault in it. So now, apart from those four components, there are no other components that are more important. I'm not talking about the subject of the memo. Now, subject of the memo is always the heading, the title you are going to give to the idea you are going to discuss in the memo. That is a separate component. But the four components that are always together in a memo, you always see them together. A memo must have those four components. It must have from component, that is where it is coming from, then to component, where it is going to, then the reference component, that is what number you are going to use to tag that memo for reference in the future, or future reference. Then the last one, which is the date. It is very important to indicate the date when the memo was written. Those are the four major components. Then memo does not have complementary clause. There's nothing like yours faithfully in a memo. No complementary clause. The highest you can say is thank you at the end of a memo, then followed by your signature. So your signature comes first, then your name. Nothing like yours faithfully. Now, any other question there? Okay. Now, to summarize everything we have done this night, I want to thank everybody that is online, and I am very sure the discussion today will be very helpful. Just to tell you again, the exam you are going to write either tomorrow or on Thursday is going to be divided into 3 sections. Section 1, you are going to write 1 letter, 1 memo. Section 2, you are going to answer questions on comprehension passage, which is going to be based on logic. On that, I've told you, you should be able to differentiate between opinion and fact. Then you should be able to identify fallacy in a particular argument. Fallacy means error. So now you should know several types of fallacy. That fallacy committed, is it appealing to emotion? That is, you just want people to pity, you just want to pour emotion in people. Or is it appealing to authority? That is because somebody is in power, then he can commit crime. Or we can accept this thing the way it is because of the fact that it is our tradition. That's the way we do it. You cannot give any other explanation than to say Bashiman shading. That's no. That is fallacy. Whenever you hear somebody say that is the way we do it, that is fallacy. So because that is the way you do it and you think it is normal, something is not right just because it is the way you do it. You should have a fact to support it, that is universally accepted truth about it. That is for comprehension passage. And the last one is the project report writing. So you are going to answer questions on report writing, meaning of reports, types of reports, procedure of writing reports, and some other key words we used in report writing. So 3 sections, 4 questions. That is 3 parts, 4 questions. Now you are going to answer 2 questions from section 1, letter writing. 1 letter, 1 memo. Each letter will give you 15 marks. Then second section, section 2, comprehension passage. Then the third section, you are going to answer only 1 question. That we give you 3 questions, you answer 1. That is report writing. You are going to answer only 1 question from that part 2. So 3 sections. I will not be able to entertain any more questions. You can begin to appreciate the lecturer and the crew handling the online lecture this night. You can appreciate them. We are many here to see that everything goes smoothly, so you can appreciate them. They are all here with me, engineers, cameraman, and some other people. So appreciate them, and I wish you good success in this examination. For those of you that are writing it tomorrow, make sure you sleep early so that you refresh your brain before you go for the exam tomorrow. And those of you that are writing on Thursday, I wish you best of luck. Thank you so much, and we'll see some other time. And for people that missed the online lecture, we are going to repost the whole video so that they can watch it. For example, those that are writing exam on Thursday, you can inform your colleagues that they can still come back to watch the video before tomorrow morning. Hopefully we will repost the video so that people will see it there. The only thing is that they will not be able to ask questions anymore. All right, I can see your appreciation. Thank you very much. For those of you that have appreciated us, we thank you. Thank you very much. We wish you best of luck in the examination. Good night, and God bless you.